Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Awards Watch Oscar podcast. This is Oscar podcast number 50, a small milestone for us. I'm your host, Eric Anderson. It is Thursday, February 16th, and we are getting into the final stretches of this Oscar season. And today I have with me Gold Rush Gang member Bryan. Hello, Bryan.
Hello, Eric. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic, and as every year, getting happier as we get closer to this finish line. I love everything about the season, but it's exhausting. Don't you think it's a little bit exhausting?
A little bit. I mean, we've been spoiled the last 3 years with some really fantastic Best Picture races, and this year not so much. So I guess that on that end, it's not too exciting. But most of the rest of the categories are. So.
It is, but that's funny that you mentioned that because it's something that I probably bring up every year, sometimes earlier than this point, where we've got like two ways of thinking with people that really avidly follow Oscar stuff, and that's that when there's a front runner like La La Land that has been for as long as it has been. People get really bored by it and they want, some kind of crazy upset. And then on the other side, when it is kind of up in the air, they get really fidgety that they're not able to nail down an accurate prediction. Mm-hmm. And it's funny because I kind of like where, if that was like a Venn diagram, I like the middle of that.
Okay. Yeah, and BAFTA was basically a godsend in terms of creating drama in some of these other categories. So, I mean, I think in lieu of the good Best Picture race, this is the next best thing that we got all these categories to talk about. And there's at least some of these feel somewhat up in the air at least.
It is. I think actually BAFTA, SAG, and the Globes all created kind of the necessary drama that it really takes to push, an Oscar race forward, at least from the point of view of followers and spectators and all of that. I don't ever envy anybody that's actually in the race themselves, because it's such a roller coaster and it's such a weird thing. I think for someone to have the right level of humility when it comes to awards, but also desire for them. It's such a delicate balance because you could be humble like Barry Jenkins, or you could be thirsty as fuck like Eddie Redmayne. And again, there's a Venn diagram where somewhere in the middle is like just, the Goldilocks porridge way to be. Mm-hmm. Anyway, I digress. Okay, yes, so February 16th. Last week was BAFTA. And although it gave us some pretty obvious winners, we've got some really cool things there that might give a little BAFTA bump to someone or affect our predictions. And I don't think we need to go too deep into the fact that La La Land won Best Film and Giselle and whatever else. But there are some things, like I think anybody that was still holding out hope for Natalie Portman can certainly close that door, because that is officially done. But then we had the matchup of Dev Patel and Mahershala Ali in supporting actor, and Patel won. And I think any of us that were doing our predictions at least, had one or the other. And, one was the winner and one was the alt. And props to Chris Tapley, who I think had Dev Patel predicted. But, Bryan, what do you think about that race and that BAFTA win? Because Ali has been someone like Casey Affleck that's just run the critics wins. He's got like 25 or 26 or something, and then had that stumble at the Golden Globes, came back with SAG, and now has this stumble. Where are you with those two in terms of the race?
Yeah, it wasn't shocking. I think a lot of people, even if they predicted Mahershala, were taking Dev very seriously there. I mean,
Yes.
he's British. He's pretty beloved over there. He did a lot of campaigning with BAFTA. Mahershala did not. I think he only did the Tea Party, and that was it. And, Moonlight, missed the directing nomination, missed the editing nomination. It clearly was not as strong over there as it was. It should be at the Oscars since it maxed out nominations-wise at the Oscars. So, but it's concerning because I almost think of it as if it had just been Dev winning. I think that you could have just chalked it up as kind of like a BAFTA-only win. But the fact that it took Dev and Lion winning screenplay, I mean, it basically won the two major awards it could win there. Shows that there's some real passion for that movie. I mean, really, like the two categories that we got a lot of Moonlight fans at Awards Watch, and I know you are too, and rooting for Moonlight. It's got to be a little I can understand the worry that this movie Lion is like surging at the right time, and Moonlight basically since that Globe win, which we all thought, the room was very excited about it. We thought the industry might really get behind this movie. Ever since that Globe win, it lost stage drama, it lost SAG Ensemble, and then it got shut out at BAFTA. So it really hasn't moved an inch since that point. So those two things, like the kind of the momentum of the two movies, I think is what is the underlying worry for people who are picking Mahershala to win, because Lion does have a lot of passion, and it would be kind of weird at this point for that movie to go home empty-handed at the Oscars, I think. So that's really the big concern. I will say we have had one recent acting winner take this path of win Critics' Choice, lose the Globe, win SAG, lose BAFTA, and then win the Oscar. That was Lupita Nyong'o.
Yep.
Now, she was in the Best Picture winner, so that's a little different. And I think a lot of people would argue that Lawrence beat her at BAFTA because it was a makeup win for not winning for Silver Linings. But, we have a recent precedent of that path for a supporting winner. So I think he does have that in his favor.
Yeah, I don't disagree. And I mean, I know Ali has had a bit of a difficult time in the last few weeks getting himself out there for things. His wife was actually due the weekend of BAFTA, so that's why he wasn't there. But he's kind of coming back now at the right time, right as voting started. I don't think though when we're talking about Lion that we can underestimate the Harvey Weinstein effect on this. Even as that company is going through, upheaval of all kinds, and I'm kind of reminded, honestly, of Philomena with this. That one adapted screenplay at BAFTA too, and it just I feel it feels a lot like that. It feels like it is something that could go home empty-handed on Oscar night. Lion has performed better than Philomena did, but not a whole lot. So I am not changing my prediction for the Oscars. I'm still going to predict Ali to win. But it certainly made me a little bit worried.
Yeah, I like that comparison with Philomena because that actually beat 12 Years a Slave in screenplay over there. And sometimes, BAFTA will award these screenplays as kind of like consolation prizes more than anything else. So that, you could factor that in. But I don't know. Lion feels stronger than Philomena. Mm-hmm. I would on almost solely on the strength of the guilds. I mean, it made DGA. So.
Oh, I know that was crazy.
Yeah, I don't think Philomena was anywhere near DGA, and
no.
Didn't even make PGA. So I think I definitely think Lion's stronger than Philomena, but I do agree with you that that it could be it could be just a BAFTA thing because Dev, had the advantage of being British and being a name over there, and Mahershala, is a total newbie to them probably.
Mm-hmm.
And in screenplay, it didn't beat Moonlight in screenplay, where it's going to have to go up against Moonlight at the Oscars. So,
if Lion, for example, had won the USC Scripter, then I'd probably be crapping my pants right now.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, and no, and when I make a comparison like to something like Philomena, and I know we're always looking for a parallel or something that we can use as a jumping off point. It's only the small and specific elements of it. I don't think when we're doing predicting like this that it's smart or safe to try and make direct comparison parallels, because that'll trap you into this way of thinking that you can't really escape from.
Right.
So I'm looking at like that comparison as it's Weinstein, it's British, it did better here than here. So I look at it as much like that as possible.
And I'll go back to thinking about the moment when Mahershala won at SAG and he made that speech.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that's a wrap. I thought that made the race pretty much over. Even in the back of my mind, I knew that, BAFTA's not a done deal, but even if he doesn't win BAFTA, this is probably it. He's probably established himself as enough of the front runner. Moonlight's strong enough that he's going to win.
Yeah.
So I'm not just gonna, because he lost at BAFTA, I'm not just going to switch, my prediction just based on that. I'll still go with Mahershala. It's just concerning because Lion is surging. Dev has a huge advantage in the size of the roles between the two. I mean, Dev is basically a co-lead frauded into supporting, which is always an advantage. We've seen that end up being the winner many times. Mm-hmm. So that's a concern. So I just don't think, I would say it's like 60-40 at this point in Mahershala's favor, but I don't feel very comfortable at all.
I know, and I don't ever discount the importance of timing with things, and it does feel almost like Moonlight had peaked so early before we got into the January-February awards. We saw that with Hidden Figures winning SAG, and like you mentioned earlier, Lion is now kind of turning into a nice box office sleeper hit, whereas when it originally opened Thanksgiving weekend, limited release, it was just like, oh, okay, this doesn't look too promising.
No, I saw it opening night here, and the theater was like half full.
Yeah, it was.
Like, I was seriously thinking, is this movie going to make any money at all? And then, but credit to Harvey, he knew word of mouth was going to take over with this movie. He rolled it out very slowly,
mm-hmm.
and what's happening? Word of mouth taking over. Now, I say credit to Harvey. He also scheduled 2 of his own movies, Golden, The Founder, up against it and took theaters away from it. So, I mean, he's not exactly infallible at this kind of theater rollout stuff. But Lion has kind of won over the general audiences, so to speak, for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely doing really well, and something like Moonlight has kind of plateaued. I mean, it's made $20 million, which is insane. It's outstanding for a movie like that. But it comes out to home video release like next week, and it's just opening this week in England. So I think that also led to some of the reason why it had only gotten 4 nominations and why it didn't win anything. I just don't think the visibility was there enough there. But I don't know. That's just me. Okay, let's look at some of the other categories, because before we started recording, we were just talking a little bit about the tech categories at BAFTA and how they kind of gave us some really interesting choices. We had Hacksaw Ridge get film editing. Fantastic Beasts won production design. Jackie won costume design. Arrival won sound. And BAFTA only has one sound category versus the Oscars, which has sound mixing and sound editing. And I think is it costume design that has like 8 of the last 9 winners at BAFTA have won the Oscar?
I think it's 9. It's everyone since 2009.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's pretty impressive. And I will say one of the things that was interesting about BAFTA as it was rolling out, La La Land had 11 nominations, and right off the bat started losing most of them. And it gave me pause that maybe there won't be as big of a sweep at the Oscars, but not a huge one, but a little bit. Mm-hmm. What are you thinking in terms of these tech awards where La La Land did not win? I mean, specifically the 4, obviously, that I mentioned, because those, I mean, that's a huge portion of its nominations.
Yeah, BAFTA does have a track record of spreading these tech wins around. I think the most wins any Best Picture winner over there has gotten in decades is 7.
Yep.
So, I mean, even some of the biggest Oscar juggernauts only maxed out at 7. So, they do like to spread the wealth over there. Now, we thought the Globes would do that. They didn't. They gave it all to La La Land. So we kind of thought, well, maybe BAFTA will do the same and they'll just give La La Land 10 wins or something like that. Mm-hmm. So they didn't. I think the Oscars are not known for spreading anything around. But I don't think that, I think the days of like it winning 11 or 12 at the Oscars are probably over. I don't think that's going to happen. I think that it'll probably be somewhere in between the 5 it won at BAFTA and double digits. So I would say like 8 or 9. And it's really, for me, it just comes down to looking at the individual categories and seeing, okay, where is La La Land most vulnerable? Mm-hmm. The one that really stands out to me is costumes, because I got to say, the Critics' Choice Awards, they're basically a punchline at this point. They are really good at calling this category. Ever since they started voting on costumes in 2009, all of their winners have won BAFTA, and then all the BAFTA winners won the Oscars. Even things that were up in the air like Mad Max last year. And Jackie won Critics' Choice. Jackie's won BAFTA. I think these general voting bodies just see Jackie as synonymous with costumes. You know, mm-hmm. They instantly think of the red wool suit on the poster or the pink Chanel suit with the pillbox hat. And these are just iconic outfits. And when they see these names on their ballot, that's the one that stands out for costumes. So I think I feel pretty good about Jackie there at this point. I think that editing and production design and sound and production design especially, those two are kind of up in the air at this point, because those aren't undeniable. You know, sometimes we look at these categories and it's best to just substitute most instead of best for, you know, like most editing or most production design and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You know, La La Land does not have the most editing, really. I mean, a lot of it is long takes. It doesn't have the most production design because a lot of these locations are actual locations that have been made to look a little unrealistic, a little fantasy-like. But they're not actual huge production sets that sometimes voters gravitate more towards. Mm-hmm. We got all. I mean, we could go through all these. They're all kind of. I think the only ones that are like done are score. I think La La Land's going to win score for sure.
Yeah,
and probably cinematography. I'd be really surprised if it loses, since it won BAFTA, anyways.
Yeah, I'm feeling the same way. I just posted the Gold Rush Gang predictions, just at, the in the moment ones yesterday. I think it's yesterday. And right now, collectively, not necessarily individually, but collectively, we have La La Land still winning 10 Oscars, 10 of its 14 nominations. And It's one of only three movies that's ever gotten 14. Titanic was the most recent in '97, and then All About Eve. And then you look at what those films won. Titanic won 11, and All About Eve just won 6. So it's pretty safe to say that La La Land is probably going to fall somewhere in between there. It's just a matter of, is it going to be closer to 6 or closer to 11? And I think in this coming week we'll probably see a little bit more movement in the in the Gold Rush gang with their placements. But yeah, looking at the costume design, it took me a while, honestly, to jump aboard how broad the support for La La Land was going to be at the Oscars. Those 14 nominations just kind of knocked me on my ass. And early on, just the modern day element of it made it really difficult for me to see, things like costume design and production design for it. Even though, like you said, the production design in that movie is hyper real. There's actual locations, but it still feels, production designy, artificial.
Yeah, I mean, they make real locations look fake.
Yeah, exactly. Which is, really kind of ironic, because part of the purpose of movies is to make fake locations look real.
Yeah.
So it just was really difficult for me to wrap my head around it, but there we are. And then with costumes, I'm thinking, okay, everything's modern. What am I missing? What am I missing here? And then, you watch the movie, and even though Emma Stone's yellow dress is just an ordinary yellow dress, it's kind of ingrained in my mind. It's also sort of become iconic, at least for this film year. So I get it now. It took me a while, but it makes sense. The color palette of the movie with the costuming is also such an important thing. That second number, the Somewhere in the Crowd, with the 4 girls, and they're all wearing the primary colors and the green. That's real impact. That's the power of costume design. It doesn't have to be Florence Foster Jenkins. It doesn't have to be Fantastic Beasts or a pillbox hat. It can be something like that just evokes the exact right mood or feeling, And it is, throughout the entire movie, an homage and a throwback to 100 years of movie making. So I don't know. All that said, I'm still predicting Jackie to win.
Yeah, well, it's really in the epilogue for me where the costumes really pop. And I thought that might, when a movie ends like that, and has all like the showy technical elements at the end of the movie, even more than the rest of it, I really thought that's what voters might take away from it, and that's why La La Land could win that category. But there are certain categories that BAFTA and like the precursors are really good at calling. Costume design is one of those categories. So it's really hard to bet against. I think it's really hard to bet against Jackie at this point in that category, because I just think when voters see that movie, it's just synonymous with costumes. But there, you talked about production design. Since BAFTA switched their awards to before the Oscars in 2000, the winner in production design has only repeated like 7 out of 16 times. I mean, they don't have a very good track record in production design. So that one could easily switch over to La La Land, or it could be Arrival, which was not nominated at BAFTA. I mean, Fantastic Beasts won BAFTA, but it didn't beat Arrival there. And it only beat La La Land. So it could be, that's a category that's kind of up in the air at this point.
It is. And just one last thing on the costume design thing. It's the Costume Designers Guild is the last guild this year.
Yeah.
They announce on the 21st, and the period category has Jackie and Florence Foster Jenkins in it. which are the only Oscar nominees in that category. Contemporary has La La Land. Fantasy has Fantastic Beasts. So they're all represented. But say if Jackie were to lose there, it would be a little strange. I'm not sure that's going to happen.
I mean, I think it's the favorite, but I wonder if costume designers would respond to that as much as, general voting bodies would, because there aren't that many actual costumes in the movie in Jack. Whereas something like Florence Foster Jenkins, I think there are more. I know that movie got into the Costume Designers Guild without screeners, which spoke to how respected I think it was. And then you got something like Hidden Figures, which is surging with the guilds, which just won Art Directors Guild over much showier production design work. So
that was a strange win. Oh my god.
Yeah.
That was.
I think the favorite was Hail Caesar, but I don't think people took into account how much people hate that movie. I mean, nobody likes that movie, and these guilds are huge. They're huge voting bodies.
Yeah.
And sometimes if they just don't respond to a movie, they just won't vote for it, no matter how good the actual work in it is. So
that's true.
That might have just put it there.
That is true. I want to look at that Art Directors Guild again. Yeah, La La Land, Hidden Figures, and Passengers.
Passengers won.
Yeah.
For both Arrival and Fantastic Beasts.
Yes. Which I have no problems with, because as terrible as the movie is, the production design in it is phenomenal. It's amazing.
Yeah, it was kind of the inverse of the period category, where they voted for a bad movie because the work was so showy, but they wouldn't do that with Hail Caesar in period. It was kind of interesting.
Yeah, that was.
Yeah,
I agree. So what are you looking at for production design right now in the moment for the Oscar?
I'm still sticking with La La Land. Like I said, the BAFTA winner has only repeated 7 out of 16 times. It has repeated the last 3, but Mad Max and Grand Budapest were locks. I mean, those were always going to win the Oscar. Mm-hmm. So when it's up in the air, BAFTA doesn't really help that much. I think the visibility might be a bigger issue with the Academy for Fantastic Beasts than it was with BAFTA. I mean, it was obviously a very popular British film. It made outstanding British film at BAFTA. Mm-hmm. It winning something at BAFTA doesn't surprise me. I wonder how many Academy voters will have seen that movie. I think that Arrival, if you look at the category, because you got 2 Best Picture nominees, La La Land and Arrival, and then 3 nominees that weren't even close to Best Picture, Fantastic Beasts, Hail Caesar, and Passengers. So I'm confident that Arrival will be the second most viewed movie in this category by a mile.
Yeah.
And sometimes this can be the category when it's wide open, where a BP nominee that has a lot of tech nominations can sneak out a win. We saw that with Lincoln a few years ago in this category, where nobody predicted Lincoln to win.
Except for Ann Thompson.
Except for Ann Thompson. And by the way, Ann Thompson is picking Arrival in this category. So I just want to say that.
Shut the front door. Is she?
Yeah, she is.
Oh, my God.
So I just think that sometimes this can be like just a tech movie category. And Arrival is, in the hunt in a lot of categories, but it's not the favorite anywhere. So this could be the one category it pulls off, because the competition is not very strong. I mean, but I still think La La Land, like I said, it is pretty showy. Like you said, they make real locations look fake. The epilogue is super showy in terms of production design. So I'll stick with that. I don't feel great about it. I could see an Arrival upset. I know some people will be switching over to Fantastic Beasts because it won BAFTA. It obviously has very impressive production design. I just question the visibility with that movie.
Yeah, I'm so completely I'm honestly flummoxed with this category, because the only logical reason to pick La La Land to win this is based on a sweep. There is barely a precedent in the last 30 years of something modern era being able to win this. I think it's like, What, like All That Jazz? And
Yeah,
Heaven Can Wait. I mean, it's been the 70s.
contemporary does not do well in this category for sure.
It's even hard sometimes for it to get a nomination. The nomination for her that happened was a really great one, but it's a rare one. So
I will say before the Les Mis lost here, musicals did very well in this category. Sweeney Todd won,
yes,
Chicago won, and Moulin Rouge won. So
absolutely, but those, I mean,
yeah,
those existed in a time period that wasn't new, and they were more traditional musicals in where they are entirely, sets and sound stages of created environments, and La La Land just is not. But I mean, I'm probably going down to the last minute with my predictions in a lot of this, because every time I think there's going to be finally a sweep, there isn't, and there hasn't been since this expansion of the Best Picture category and the change in voting there. There hasn't been. Obviously, if there ever was going to be, this would be the one with 14 nominations, but it's killing me. These tech categories like this are just driving me nuts. But I mean,
I'm sure a lot of people are going to switch to Fantastic Beasts because it's proven it can win this category at BAFTA. But Harry Potter and I think the fourth one, Goblet of Fire, won at BAFTA here, and then I think Memoirs of a Geisha won at the Oscars. So there's also precedent for a Harry Potter universe movie winning this category and then not winning the Oscar.
Exactly, and it's not like Fantastic Beasts made Harry Potter money. I mean, essentially, it was a bit of a disappointment. So I just, I don't know. But I mean, I just keep looking at the, 10 years of this category, 20 years of this category of, where things go, and, periods of production design winning that's largely, artificially created, like Avatars. So
yeah, I think if Arrival was a little bit showier, I would predict it for sure. But I worry that the voters are just going to look at that and go like, well, how much production design is really in that movie? Because
exactly.
It's not obvious. It doesn't scream at you production design.
No, all there is her amazing house and a big charcoal gray square box of the spaceship. That's basically it. It would be a really weird winner.
Yeah.
But, I mean, all of us in the Gold Rush gang have it at 2 and 3. So, and that's understandable.
Like I said, it's the tech movie that's nominated there that people have seen. So they might, just check it off. I don't know. And Ann Thompson is predicting it.
Oh, my God. Ann.
Only person in the world to call Lincoln.
Oh, my God. If I have to switch to that, it's gonna drive me crazy. Well, that actually brings up a really interesting thing. And I know you touched a little bit on editing. We should probably talk about film editing and sound then next. And then I will move into the thought that I just had, if I can still remember it. Yeah, so Arrival won sound at BAFTA. Hacksaw Ridge won film editing. And as I mentioned, sound is only one category there. It's two categories at the Oscars. I'm still actually feeling La La Land as an editing winner. I know, like you said, there are these great long takes in the film, but then there's also, once it gets to the like jazz elements, there is a lot more cutting and editing.
Yeah, some of like the summer montage stuff is very quick.
It is. Then it starts to feel like whiplash. So, but I would probably, I think I do. I think I have Hacksaw as my number 2. No, I have Arrival as my number 2. What? I have Hacksaw at 4? That's not happening. I need to switch.
Didn't you predict Hacksaw at BAFTA, or was like an alternate or something?
As an alt.
Yeah, see, nobody did. Everyone had Arrival.
I actually, in my predictions, I didn't get a single flub. Everything I had was either winner or alt. It was insane. It's my year. But I'm switching.
You're like in sixth place now.
I know, it's ridiculous. Justification, validation.
A lot of pressure now to finish it off.
There's like too much pressure now. But yeah, I'm gonna switch that editing. How did I not switch that? That is bananas. Anyway, so I'm babbling now. I'll just put this all in one conversation.
Okay.
Because when I look at wealth spreading of Best Picture nominees, sometimes it happens a lot. Sometimes it doesn't. 2012 was huge. Everything but Beasts of the Southern Wild won something. And I look at, if La La Land was to really have a massive sweep, that doesn't leave very much for anybody else. But then Arrival and Hacksaw are clearly, runners up in some of these categories. But then I feel, are they going to maybe each win one or both go empty-handed? That could be a lot. There's actually, I think, going to be a lot of movies getting 0 wins that are Best Picture nominees. I'm still in film editing. I'm still on La La Land as winning, but I think I will put Hacksaw as my alt. But I can see it winning.
Yeah, I'll start with film editing. Ace actually has a much better track record than BAFTA since 2000. I think it's 11-7 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Ace has 2 categories, but the only Ace comedy winner that repeated the Oscars was Chicago. So the whole Ace stat does bode well for La La Land here. But the Hacksaw Ridge winning BAFTA was very interesting because we thought that movie was not going to be very strong there.
Mm-mm.
I don't think many people expected it to win anything. Like, they didn't even consider it. And since Arrival had that Best Film nomination and basically maxed out nominations over there, it really felt like if something was going to win editing, and BAFTA is very adventurous in that category. I mean, they've awarded Rush, they've awarded Senna,
Yeah.
They do not care how strong a film is when it comes to editing. They just basically choose the showiest editing. I thought they might go with Arrival because that is a movie that is so reliant on its editing. It's not fast, but it's so integral to what the movie is actually about at the end of the day. So I thought that would have a good shot there. So for Hacksaw to win, I think you could say it's because it has the most editing. It has the battle sequences are super quick. It's basically the entire second half of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you think that Hacksaw Ridge is stronger at the Oscars than it was at BAFTA, there's a pretty good argument for it beating La La Land in editing. If it could win at BAFTA, why wouldn't it win at the Oscars when the last couple winners have been like Whiplash and Mad Max over stronger Best Picture contenders? So I definitely think Hacksaw is the alternate over Arrival, because if BAFTA didn't go for Arrival, it'd be really strange for the Oscars to, I don't know, be that inspired of a win to go for Arrival there. So I do think it's La La Land versus Hacksaw. So and Hacksaw has the most editing, so it definitely could upset La La Land there.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, the reason I obviously had Arrival at number 2 was because of Ace, but I don't know if that's enough.
Yeah, well, like I said, Ace does have a good track record, but I just like I said, if it couldn't win BAFTA, when I think Arrival was a bit stronger at BAFTA comparatively to the other films than it is at the Oscars, it would be kind of strange for it to win editing at the Oscars. Obviously possible, but not something I would bet on because, like I said, Hacksaw Ridge just has more quick cutting. It has more action. It has more things that when people think film editing, they think war battle sequences and stuff like that. So yeah. Sound is interesting, though, because sound went to Arrival, and BAFTA winners have a lot of crossover in mixing. Before last year, the last 8 sound winners at BAFTA went on to win sound mixing. So I know everyone's predicting La La Land because musicals always win sound mixing.
Yeah.
But Arrival might be a good alternate for sound mixing because there is a lot of music, and people do associate mixing with music. So
it is, but then it didn't even get a
it
Cinema
didn't even-
Audio Society. It's so
I
strange.
think that's because the sound mixers on Arrival are not they don't have many nominations. Like, they're not big names or anything like that.
Yeah.
And if you look at this Cinema Audio Society, they go for, the people behind Doctor Strange are like huge names, and the people behind Sully are huge names.
Well, and
Look-
Hacksaw Ridge is Kevin O'Connell.
Yep.
This is his 21st nomination.
I think that's why he could win Cinema Audio Society, but I don't think, like, Oscar voters don't know who Kevin O'Connell is, and his name's not on the ballot either. So.
Exactly, and that's something that probably does not get really kind of talked about enough with Oscar voting. Is the only names on ballots are actor names in the acting categories. So unless you are a total awards nutcase like we are, you're not going to know as an average voter that, Kevin O'Connell has lost 20 times.
No,
it's not going to matter to you.
Like, Roger Deakins' name never shows up on the ballot because so you have to have like an overwhelming narrative like Morricone had last year, or Desplat had 2 years ago. I mean, you really have to establish it throughout the season as this person needs to win in this tech category, and all the voters need to know that. Otherwise, they have no idea. So
yes, and a lot of times it's really up to the campaign to create that narrative to make sure that people know. That has to be a part of it sometimes. Looking at sound, there's no way that I would budge from La La Land winning sound mixing. It's just I'm not budging from it. Sound editing, though, is really interesting, and that's where I think that Hacksaw Ridge will win. This category loves war movies, especially or even as like a sole win.
Yeah, it should. I mean, it should win editing because, like you said, American Sniper won here.
Mm-hmm.
BAFTA doesn't have great crossover with sound editing, so I don't think I think Arrival might be the alternate. It'd be really strange if La La Land wins there.
It would, and once the order of the awards is revealed and we see how early in the show it is, if La La Land wins sound editing, you can pretty much just turn off the TV at that point.
Yeah, it'll be a done deal.
Yeah. And the Motion Picture Sound Editors Guild has their awards this weekend. There's a lot this weekend. Makeup Artists, MPSE, Writers Guild are all this weekend. Cinema Audio Society as well. And at MPSE, Hacksaw Ridge and Arrival are both nominated 3 times in all 3 eligible categories. So that's interesting. We'll see.
Yeah, and I noticed La La Land didn't get anything there.
Yeah,
and it still made it in with the sound editors at the Oscars. That was funny.
Yes.
Yeah.
What do you? I'm looking at obviously at your predictions, and you do also have Hacksaw Ridge for sound editing. Do you think you will stick with that? What if Arrival were to take 2 of the 3 at MPSE?
I don't think MPSE affects Oscar voting. Period. Okay. So I don't even really consider it. If I think La La Land's going to win sound mixing, and so it really comes down to Hacksaw versus Arrival in sound editing. And I was just looking at the past BAFTA winners, and all the BAFTA winners, the only ones that won sound editing only were Master and Commander, and I think Braveheart. There's 2, and that's it. So. Like I said, they don't have a great track record in sound editing, and the war movies they dominate that category.
They really do.
The Hacksaw La La Land split makes sense, and then maybe Arrival is the alternate in both. That for me, that seems like the most sense.
I think I would totally agree with that. I like that.
Yeah.
In fact, that's what I have.
Nice.
Well, wait, no. Yes, I'm switching that right now. Now I do. All right, let's look at some more categories from BAFTA and where we see Oscar correlation, and let's look at visual effects. Pretty much all year, all season, the Jungle Book has been kind of the undeniable leader and eventual winner there. It won BAFTA. It did extremely well at VES. So what's is that just something that's locked, or should we really just kind of look at what's just bubbling underneath as a possible spoiler?
Yeah, I think Jungle Book winning BAFTA was pretty telling, because the last time BAFTA went with a lone nomination in this category was like a decade ago. I mean, they had the option of going with like Arrival, which was a BP nominee, and even something like Doctor Strange, which had a production design and makeup nominations over there. So the fact that Jungle Book won, I think, is kind of solidifies it. Maybe not a lock, but I feel very good about it. But you said spoiler, and I noticed you have Deepwater Horizon as your number 2.
I do.
I have it dead last, so I think we might have a disagreement here, because I want to know why you have it second.
Yes. Okay. So what's interesting about this year in this category, even though Jungle Book feels like such a lock, is that there are no Best Picture nominees. Arrival didn't make it. And as we know statistically and historically as awards watchers, this category is very, very weirdly linked to Best Picture nominees. And up until last year, any Best Picture nominee in this category was able to beat a non-Best Picture nominee since 1970. Mm-hmm. And then last year saw Ex Machina have a huge upset win over The Revenant and Mad Max. Nobody saw it coming. It didn't have anything leading up to it that would have really, been a good bellwether. It was the least flashy. It was the least expensive. It was kind of the least everything. And it won, which weirdly kind of made me think of like the Dallas Buyers Club makeup win, where it was like, we spent $20 on makeup. So this is all building to the reason why I have Deepwater Horizon at number 2. It was something, once I saw it, I was late to see it, but once I saw it a few months ago, I was absolutely positive it was going to get nominated, and thought, like a lot of times, the biggest obstacle for a movie or a performance is actually getting the nomination. Because then you're up only against 5 things, and you almost have to be seen at that point. But Deepwater Horizon sort of follows the path of Ex Machina right now, I think, as being sort of like the seemingly least likely. It had the shortest turnaround in post-production for its visual effects. It's extremely inexpensive, and it is nearly impossible to really distinguish the visual effects from what's like really happening. It was really, really, really good. And I mean, I hope I'm not using too much personal thought and bias in it. I mean, it's not the greatest movie ever, but I think that it serves this category extremely well. So that's why I have it at number 2.
Okay. We agree that the work is really strong. On merit, I would have no problem with it winning. I'm very pessimistic that outside of there's 700 people in the sound and VFX branches. Mm-hmm. I'm pessimistic that outside of that, anybody's seen this movie. Mm-hmm. What Academy members have seen it? You can't say Barry Jenkins. He's not an Academy.
I wasn't going to, but
You were about to. I can tell.
I wasn't. You are
He's
so
not an
shady.
Academy member yet.
So shady.
I mean, just at Awards Watch. I mean, we like most of the users on Awards Watch see like a lot of movies, like 50 to 100, somewhere in there a year.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody's seen this movie. I voted for it #1 at the prestigious INOCAs. It couldn't even get into sound editing, or visual effects. It was pathetic. So I don't think anybody's seen this movie. And you know, I mean, Ex Machina thing's cool, but that had a screenplay nomination and it made PGA. Like that was like the cool kids movie. There was a lot of love, industry love for that movie. I don't think Deepwater has any footprint at all. So I hope you're right. I don't really see that.
No, and everything you said is the exact perfect counter argument to mine. Just shorter and much more succinct. But you're absolutely right. Like I said, the only reason I have it is because now that it's in and there's only 5 movies and, you know, people can watch, they don't even have to watch the movie. They can just watch, you know, a 10-minute reel and make a decision if they want to. But, you know, The Jungle Book is a massive hit. Anybody and everybody has seen it. So it's,
Yeah, I think The Jungle Book's going to win. I would say if there's a shocking upset, I kind of think it'd be Kubo. Because I think voters would just see, like, an animated film finally nominated in this category and be like, oh, that's cool. I'm going to vote for that because that's, like, a fun vote. You know what I mean? And they've probably seen it because it's you know, one of the 2 animated films that could win that category. So I don't think that's going to happen, though. I think Jungle Book's, like, just... The visual effects are just undeniable. I don't see why it would lose. You know, we said that about like Dawn of the Planet of the Apes a couple years ago, but it lost BAFTA, and once it lost BAFTA, it was very vulnerable. This isn't the same situation.
It's definitely not, and it's almost the Avatar level or Life of Pi level of visual effects, where there's more than like 70% of the movie.
Yeah, for sure.
And yeah, I see you have Kubo and the Two Strings at #2. I have it at #3. And I could easily flip around that with Deepwater Horizon because I feel like Kubo and the Two Strings in here is very similar to Deepwater in the fact that getting in here was the biggest hurdle.
Yeah.
And I think some people probably don't realize what amount of visual effects versus stop motion animation Kubo has. But if you watch any of the little featurettes about it, it's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
Especially, and the integration is flawless.
Yeah, and the VFX branch nominating it is just like a go-ahead sign to voters that they can vote for it, that it's actually very impressive work. And, you know, it just won, Kubo just won BAFTA. Focus has run a flawless campaign with that movie. They've been pushing it hard for months, probably because their big players kind of flopped. But you know, they got the Fun Costume Guild nomination. Mm-hmm. They ended up getting the VFX nomination. They've littered the trades with these ads that say like choose handcrafted and choose heart and stuff like that. They're really pushing this movie.
I love the Kubo ads that are out right now.
Yeah,
for pushing it. I love them. I think they're wonderful. I would love to see it win. I think it would be super, super cool. But yeah, that's you just brought up that it won the BAFTA animated over Zootopia. Well, Zootropolis as it's called there.
Maybe confused.
So I don't know. Maybe did you want to just talk about that for just a moment and see?
Yeah, that's an interesting race. I think.
It is now.
I mean, okay, here's the caveat is that BAFTA, like the doc and foreign categories, their animated award is decided by an opt-in chapter. So it's like 1,200 members, not the full membership of like 7,500 people. Yeah. So they do that to ensure that everyone watches like the animated movies, and then so if you see, you don't blind vote basically.
Well, like the Academy used to do with its little categories.
Yeah, and the Oscars obviously don't do that anymore. So Zootopia has the advantage, the visibility advantage at the Oscars that I don't think that it didn't have at BAFTA. And if you look at the makeup of the actual categories, Finding Dory was nominated at BAFTA, and there were no red turtle or zucchini that could steal like the artier votes. So like Kubo was like the sole choice for like the artier indie crowd.
Absolutely.
So the makeup of the two sets of nominations, I think, favors Zootopia at the Oscars. But like I said, Focus just cares a hell of a lot more than Disney does. Disney has they didn't put much into the Zootopia campaign. They've just kind of said, if it wins, it wins. That's great. If not, okay. Focus has hit the guilds hard, sending out screeners to all of them, even the ones they had no shot of getting a nomination at. So yeah, I think there's I'm gonna pick Zootopia, but there's Kubo winning would not be the biggest shock of the night, I don't think.
No, it wouldn't. But it's I don't know. I'll try and say this as democratically as possible. Zootopia features, subjects and themes of class and race that are a really big part of this Oscar season.
Yep.
And I think that even if it wasn't, a $350 million Disney movie, that it would still be the front runner over Kubo, although Kubo is the better film. And I think that is the overarching thing that we're going to see at the Oscars. I think we're going to see all of this kind of not below the line, but everything that's not Best Picture is going to sort of feed into this mea culpa of the last 2 years and of the last 89 years. Because I think we're going to see 3 black acting winners. I think Zootopia is going to win. I think Moonlight's going to win Adapted Screenplay. I think we're going to see an unprecedented level of people of color winning and stories and themes of people of color. And except for Best Picture. And I think in almost any other year, La La Land wouldn't quite necessarily be the behemoth that it is. I do really think that there is, not only, since the Best Picture expansion have movies about movies been more popular where they never were before at the Oscars, but there is a kind of insulation that I feel is happening with Hollywood right now, since they've been attacked so much by the current administration and its supporters and all of that. And so they've been very outspoken. Meryl Streep's Globe speech was incredible and generated, worldwide attention. And when people say that Hollywood is in a bubble, it is in a sense, but I do think that they are going to feel very protective of themselves. So something like La La Land is part of that, but at the same time, they do need to acknowledge what they've been lacking. So
it kind of takes care of both ends, is what you're saying.
It does, and that's a very long explanation of why Zootopia is going to win. But
I like it. I like your big picture thinking. I agree that Zootopia hits the zeitgeist in a way that is probably the difference maker with that movie. It means more than Kubo, which is a beautifully crafted film that doesn't have the themes that resonate like Zootopia does. I agree.
Yeah, it's. But yeah, that said, if it won, I would be like over the moon. It would be so awesome. I would love that. Let's talk about the other big guild that's happening this weekend, even though, and especially this year, the impact is not going to be that great, and that is the Writers Guild of America. And the thing about the WGA that we always kind of bag on, and justifiably so, is that they have really extreme rules of eligibility. And there are tons of films every year that are deemed ineligible. I mean, generally foreign films animated aren't, and that's, you can just kind of wipe those out. But, you know, like this year, The Lobster and Lion weren't, and those are both nominated for Oscars. So it's hard to look at this as a really solid precursor. There's also the fact that Loving and Moonlight are in original here. They were moved to adapted by the Academy, where Moonlight got in. So I don't know what the takeaway from the winners here is going to be. In original screenplay, there's Hell or High Water, La La Land, Loving, Manchester by the Sea, and Moonlight. In adapted, it's Arrival, Deadpool, Fences, Hidden Figures, and Nocturnal Animals. And I have not done my WGA predictions yet. I'm going to probably post those tomorrow since it's this weekend. Before we go into what we think is going to win, I think we should probably say, if anything but Manchester or Lala wins original screenplay, does that turn the Writers Guild into a possible good precursor?
You mean if Moonlight wins?
Yes.
Okay. If Moonlight wins WGA over La La Land and Manchester, it's winning. Barry's going to win the Oscar. I feel very comfortable saying that. Not that the two have much correlation, but that would be a good sign that Moonlight bounces back before the Oscars. It wins something important in industry awards, other than Mahershala winning SAG. So I don't know if it makes them a good precursor or important or whatever. These categories it's weird because, like you said, Moonlight's an original. It's not an adapted. The equilibrium of these categories are much different than they are at the Oscars. Lion is not an adapted here. So you have all these like different things at play. Like, I don't know, like if Moonlight, the people who vote for Moonlight at WGA, are they taking votes away from La La Land or Manchester? I don't know. Yeah. It's a younger movie. It skews towards a younger demographic. So on that sense, I would think La La Land. But it's also, a more higher brow, I guess, critics' choice as far as the screenplay goes. So maybe it steals from Manchester. It could go either way. It is writers voting. Writers awarded Her over American Hustle. American Hustle was the longer Best Picture nominee.
With 10 nominations.
It awarded Grand Budapest over Boyhood. Now, Grand Budapest was very strong, especially in this category, but Boyhood was still probably the stronger Best Picture player. So they don't always just like, La La Land's going to win Best Picture. That means it's going to win WGA. The writers can do their own thing sometimes. So I think that, honestly, that's a toss-up. I don't feel confident in either one of them. I don't think Moonlight's quite strong enough in its overall profile to connect with the writers that much. I think they would probably, if they go for a writerly thing, it would probably be Manchester and Kenneth Lonergan.
Yeah, it makes sense for them to do that. That's
my sense on that. The other end of the spectrum is the adapted race, which is interesting because Lion won BAFTA. It's not eligible there. So it's basically Arrival versus Hidden Figures. I had thought for a while that Arrival was going to win this because it reminded me a lot of Captain Phillips, where you have this very solid Best Picture nominee that does really well with the guilds. Mm-hmm. It appeals to the younger demographic of the guilds a little bit. And that, its big star, its lead actor gets snubbed at the Oscars, like a shocking snub, and then it goes on to win like Ace and WGA, which is what Captain Phillips did. So I kind of thought Arrival would win, but with the way Hidden Figures is surging, and winning that not only winning SAG Ensemble, which isn't that surprising, but it did win SAG Ensemble without screeners. I mean, nobody brings that up, but that's a really impressive thing because the other four nominees all sent screeners to SAG, and Hidden Figures didn't, and it still won SAG Ensemble. And then it won that Art Directors Guild period. So when it didn't have any business winning that. So it's just a really popular, populist movie, and I could totally see it beating Arrival here. There's a lot of dialogue in the movie, more than Arrival. So I could see Hidden Figures winning here.
I totally see that argument for Hidden Figures and Adapted, because it's sort of, the movie of the moment. It's top of the box office. It's the highest grossing Best Picture nominee right now. But with the WGA, I'm pretty firmly entrenched in Arrival's camp for this, for a couple of reasons. One, I think the adaptation of a short story to a feature-length film is great catnip for the Writers Guild. I think the very fact that the entire movie and story is about language is an even bigger thing. And I just feel like they are going to feel a little more personally connected to it than they would with almost anything else. Fences, is obviously extremely writerly, but as far as an adaptation goes, it wasn't a big... There wasn't really much change done from the play to the screenplay, which is, I think, 17 years old now or something. Mm-hmm. So I feel much more strongly about Arrival than I do about Hidden Figures. That's just kind of where I am with that.
Yeah, that's fair. I think most people are picking Arrival, and like I said, I kind of always thought Arrival would win. It's just kind of sometimes when these guild awards can affect other guild awards, and you kind of have to take notice of when Lion wins ASC. ASC is a very idiosyncratic branch, but it still means that the movie is playing well with these guilds. So
yes.
You just have to take note. Like, yeah, Arrival should probably be the favorite, but Hidden Figures is one. You can just feel it with that movie. It's a very, very populist movie.
It is, and it's the only...
Maybe the Writers Guild doesn't always go for that, though. I mean, like I said, they can sometimes deviate away and go for the more writerly thing. So if they do that, it would be Arrival, for sure.
Yeah, and Hidden Figures has the only female nominee of any of these films, and that can be a factor as well. I really wish Lion was eligible here and in this category.
Yeah.
Instead of like Nocturnal Animals, which also is super writerly.
Yeah, and by the way, Deadpool's nominated here, so
sure it is, but yeah.
I know.
But yeah. All right, let's go back to original screenplay then, because let's go ahead and eliminate Hell or High Water. Let's eliminate Loving.
Yeah, this is a three-way race for sure.
I don't have an argument for Moonlight here, so just to make sure that it's not that I'm standing like crazy for the movie and would predict it everywhere. I feel like moving it to adapted, like the Academy did, is not going to do it any favors here. I don't feel like the Writers Guild would be like, oh yeah, well now I'm going to vote for it here. I don't see that as really anything that helped it at all, and probably hurt it tremendously. So honestly, for me, it's in third, and I'm really kind of torn between La La Land and Manchester. Lonergan has won here before already, so they do like him. I would probably... I'd probably go for Manchester here, I think.
Yeah, Lonergan beat Almost Famous here, which obviously won the Oscar. So
Yeah.
writers know Kenneth Lonergan, and they really respect him. So yeah, it's tough because you really don't want to bet against La La Land at any of these guilds that have large memberships. It's been winning these guilds. So, but there's not a ton of dialogue in La La Land. I don't really agree with a lot of the criticisms of the screenplay, but it's not like I've seen a lot of comparisons to Birdman. Not that Birdman wasn't eligible here, but that it would just sweep along with Birdman. But La La Land, Birdman was just nonstop dialogue. La La Land is a lot of songs that weren't written by Damien. There's a lot of parts of the movie with no dialogue and a lot of montages. So I don't know if writers would totally respond to it, even though I think it's definitely the most popular film with the broad guilds. So I don't know. Either way, you could talk me into either one on this one, honestly.
I know, me too. I that's what I think. I think about, Grand Budapest, winning here, and
well, really the one for me is her beating American Hustle here, because most people had American Hustle predicted it to win this, and the writers really went for the more, and I guess I would say the more inspired choice, and so does that maybe that favors Moonlight? I don't know, but I kind of think it would be weird for Lonergan to lose here, even if I don't know if he'd win the Oscar still. But I don't know. It could, like I said, I have zero confidence in this one. So
I know, me too. I'm just, it's so crazy when you look at the Critics Awards leading up to, before we got to industry and televised awards, and this was just basically, Manchester's to lose because it is so writerly. And then it hasn't.
Well, it lost the Globe. But I got the sense that the Globes did not like Manchester that much and basically nominated it because they had to. Yeah. And then Casey won because they didn't like Fences. Denzel kind of shaded them the year before at the whole ceremony. And I think Ben and Matt probably convinced some of those HFPA members to vote for Casey. So,
see, I think they're both a detriment. I don't think they're a favor.
Well, I think with the HFPA, they're a favor. They help. Maybe they're a detriment with the industry at wide. I don't know, but I think Casey kind of defaulted to that Globe win. I really don't think they like the movie that much. Certainly not as much as the rest of the industry does. So that Globe win may have been a red herring for La La Land. I'm just putting it out there.
Okay. All right. Manchester did win BAFTA.
Yeah, again, BAFTA, that's everyone voting on screenplay.
Yeah.
BAFTA also spreads things around. So it's kind of it comes at it from both sides. It's like you would think the writers would respond more to Manchester, but at the same time, they don't have, this is where they can vote for La La Land. Most of these people aren't Academy members. They don't have any other chance to vote for this movie. Mm-hmm. So that's what decides a lot of these guilds. It's like these, they don't have any other chance to vote for these movies, their favorite movie of the year, and a lot of them, their favorite movie of the year is La La Land. So even if they don't think it's the best screenplay, they might vote for it anyways.
So this is interesting. Both you and I are the only people in the Gold Rush gang that are predicting Manchester to win the Oscar right now. Mm-hmm. Right. Everybody else has La La Land.
I'd see some shifts if Manchester wins WGA, I would say.
And that's what I was just going to ask. If La La does, are you going to change your prediction?
Maybe. I don't know. This is one that's totally on the fence. I've been looking for like a category to drop La La Land in because I just don't think it's winning 10 Oscars. I don't think that's happening.
I don't either.
I've been thinking 8 or 9 for a while, and costumes with Jackie winning BAFTA made that one very easy for me. Sound editing, actor, obviously I wasn't going to predict it in those. But I've been looking for like another category to drop it in, and this one just feels right to me. But if it wins WGA, man, it's going to be it's going to be really tough just not to see like Birdman flashbacks when I thought, well, Wes Anderson's still going to win screenplay. Like these Oscar voters, they're going to know how to give Wes Anderson this award, right? They can't just and then they shut him out.
Exactly. So. Yeah. And that's exactly what happened. So I just noticed, this is perfect. I just noticed you switched your best actor prediction to Denzel Washington.
Yeah.
Where I have as well. And that means by our current predictions that we both have, Affleck losing, but the screenplay winning, and that being its sole win.
Mm-hmm.
That was a little bit of my justification and logic and reasoning, because again, I'm looking at kind of things as a whole, as a big picture of once, I feel like La La Land has exhausted its wins. Where am I going to go from there? Where am I looking at an Academy at large going, here's where I want to reward this film? And I do think that happens a lot. I do think some people, feel that way.
Mm-hmm.
So if Denzel Washington is the winner, I think that means that some people still want to reward Manchester, but the better place to do that is in screenplay.
Right. You would think that people would go, okay, La La Land, we know Damien's winning director. It's probably winning picture.
Mm-hmm.
This is where we'll vote for Manchester. And then that if we don't vote for Casey, I guess. I don't know how many people really think like that.
Yes.
They generally just vote for their favorite movies. And,
Yes.
So, yeah.
Again, I'm not, for even a moment, saying here is the way that, Academy voters are going to strategically vote, because there are 7,000 of them and everybody has a different line of thinking. But yeah.
How confident are you about Denzel winning actor at this point?
I really wish he had been at BAFTA, and they are horrible for never nominating him. But I made two pretty long posts about why I think Denzel's winning. And even in those, try and argue myself out of it by using the same logic that's of why he could win. When he first won, the first thing I thought of was, okay, this is like Meryl Streep winning for Doubt because she had never won before, and SAG is still a relatively young awards body.
Mm-hmm.
And it's I think you can make justifications for nearly anything of either Washington or Affleck winning. Washington losing the Globe made sense because he just won the Cecil B. DeMille the year before. And that's just, I don't know, that's just my belief.
And we know they didn't like Fences that much.
Yeah.
So
well, yeah. I don't know. Obviously, I don't know how much impact Affleck's sexual assault stuff is going to be a part of anyone's decision. When you can still nominate Mel Gibson for Best Director, I feel like it doesn't matter as much as we think that it might. So I have to then fall back on statistics to be my my justifier, and that is that there isn't a stronger category of correlation between SAG and Oscar than Best Actor. It's 18 of the last 20. The last, what is it, like 12 years in a row. I feel, I just feel really strongly about that.
Okay. I don't disagree. I'll play devil's advocate and say the last actor that had the other three televised awards, Globe, BAFTA, Critics' Choice, that lost the Oscar was Crow for A Beautiful Mind, so it's been a while. If Casey would lose with that haul, it's been a while since then. Obviously, he lost to Denzel, and Crow had some personal baggage too. So there are certainly parallels to that race. I've seen a lot of Mickey Rourke versus Sean Penn, comparisons to this one.
That was the most recent one that I brought up, yes. But again, like,
my only issue is Casey's in the stronger film here.
Absolutely. And I, like I mentioned earlier, if I were to use any one thing as sole justification, it would be crazy. So I can't just go, oh, this is just like Sean Penn and Mickey Rourke and nothing else matters. Like, no, that's just not how it works.
Yeah. Well, there's a reason this poll on Awards Watch is like tied at like 92 or something.
Oh my God. It's
insane. So
it's kind of great. And like we talked about it at the top of this is what we really love as awards watchers. We like close races. We like nail biters. We want to not be sure until that envelope is opened. It's really exciting. And it doesn't matter if it's something that you want to win or something that you're going to hate that wins. It's still exciting. I still love it.
Yeah.
I mean, as long as Ryan Gosling or Andrew Garfield don't win, I'm fine. I don't care, really.
I don't think you have anything to worry about.
Exactly.
I will say, I don't think Denzel's win at SAG had anything to do with him not having won before. I don't think most of them know that. I think it has everything to do with him, with Fences being a film that SAG would love.
And they did.
It's an acting showcase. It's not that surprising for me that he won SAG. I also think SAG is a younger demographic than the Academy, and they might, you talk about Casey's personal baggage, they might have been more likely to be exposed to that stuff that was online about Casey.
Sure.
Than I think these other, not just actors, these other branches, the actors branch of the Academy is only 1,200 or 1,300 people. The Academy is 6,000 people. For Denzel to win, he's going to have to be as popular or more popular than Casey with these other branches that might like Manchester more. So that's really what it comes down to. Because I think if it was just the actors voting, I think Denzel would win for sure. The question is, will the other branches care about Fences enough? Is it a strong enough movie to have two acting winners? Because everyone knows Viola's winning.
Yeah.
Are enough people going to be like, yeah, we want to vote for Denzel too? That's basically what it comes down to. And also, do people like Casey Affleck enough? Sometimes we overthink all this stuff, and sometimes voters just vote for who they like more. And Casey is, like, I don't know if Casey Affleck being out there campaigning all season really helps him that much. I mean, he's not exactly Eddie Redmayne or Emma Stone or someone who's going to charm the pants off voters. Would you vote for Casey because he talked to you for 2 minutes? I don't think I would. So.
Yeah. And interestingly enough, on the other side of that, Denzel Washington, who is normally pretty low-key and kind of hard to read sometimes, just has his personality and attitude, has been all over the place. Interviews and super upbeat and chipper and funny and campaigning his ass off.
Yeah, especially since SAG. I've noticed an uptick from him for sure.
Absolutely. And I mean, the Academy does love that. They like somebody that wants it. It's not always the case, but they really do like it. They want someone that's going to really appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure.
And I feel like things have steered into Washington's direction. And it sucks because, like, all goddamn year I had Washington as my number one. And then, Manchester and Affleck just became just these non-stop wins over and over and over and over again. I was like, okay.
So you switched.
I switched, and then Washington kind of came back with a lot of second and third tier wins. Yeah, and then obviously, SAG happened, and that was the end of that.
Yeah, that's funny because I had Casey when we did our first predictions in March. I had Casey at number 1, and I never took him out number 1 until yesterday.
Yeah, so, lots of people. Yeah. I'm surprised you did. I mean, it was only Evan and I for until today. So I'm glad to not be at least just us with that.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you just get a feeling, and I wanted to wait till after BAFTA to see like what the response would be at BAFTA to him winning, and it just I don't know. I don't get the sense that the industry loves Casey Affleck, and that's important, for as much as, all the critics wins are nice and stuff like that, but at the end of the day, it's I think a lot of these voters just vote for who they like the most, especially in the acting categories. So I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. Well, what else? Do we have anything? We had the Makeup Guild this weekend, but it's such a weird scattered category, and it's not like a lot of great correlation to Oscar, so I don't really care that much about it.
Do you think there's any chance that Huppert can beat Stone?
Oh my God.
We should talk about this because it's wardrobe.
I know. It was so funny because I was just thinking, okay, it's an hour and a half. Do we have anything more to talk about? I'm like, if we don't talk about actresses, we're going to be in trouble.
Well, we can make this quick because I don't think, it's like a question of percentage. Like, do you think she has like a 5% chance, or do you think she has a 10% chance? It's like Emma's got SAG, BAFTA, Globe. Nobody loses with that combination.
Yeah. Oh my God. I mean, no, obviously I don't think she can upset. But percentage-wise, what do I think?
Yeah. It's kind of interesting. I don't know.
I mean, obviously she's above Portman, but I don't think that. I think it might be closer than 5 or 10%, for sure. I would even push it to 20.
Okay, that sounds reasonable.
Because you don't have to win by that much to win this. Yeah.
Okay.
But see, okay, if I do that, and there's 3 more, maybe it's more. Maybe Emma Stone has 51% and Huppert has 25%, and then Portman, Streep, and Nega are fighting over for single digits.
No, they're not. Ruth Nega's not fighting over anything.
No.
So, sorry. Yeah. I don't know. It's kind of the same thing with Denzel. If it was just the acting branch voting, I think Huppert might have a shot to win, because I think the actors are really they really want to see her win. But like I said, it's 1,200 people. The other 4,800 people, how many of them have watched Elle? They had no reason to watch Elle before the nomination period. So
yeah.
I think it's asking a lot to get the vast majority of them to watch it solely because of Huppert's nomination. So, I mean, we're just kind of, it's probably not going to happen, but I don't know. It would be one of the crazier upsets if it does, and certainly make a lot of people happy. So.
Well, yes, a lot of people would be really happy with that. And it would be one of the all-time great upsets. For sure. Oh, my God. I would live for it. Live for it. I mean, when she won the Globe, I totally, did backflips. I was losing my mind.
Yeah, and Emma technically hasn't beat her yet. I mean, Portman beat Huppert at Critics' Choice, so still has not beat her.
Yes. And honestly, Emma Stone's speeches so far have been extremely underwhelming. Not that I'm saying, I mean, a lot of people put a whole lot of weight in speeches for votes, and it's a little weird and silly. but I don't know. She doesn't. She seems.
She's been a little off.
Yeah, like
You know,
a little too
like she's
low
trying
key.
she's trying to say too much. You know what I mean?
She's trying to. I mean, especially with the BAFTA speech. Oh my God, it was like I thought it was like eye-rollingly bad because she was trying to sound very important and these are very difficult times. Like, girl, come on.
well, she kind of did the same thing at SAG. You know?
I know. It was very uninspired.
And at the Globe, she basically made a SAG FYC speech about actors following their dreams and stuff like that. So that one felt more calculated to me. Like, okay, now I'm campaigning for SAG. But the last two have felt like I don't really know what she was doing. But sometimes, you know, when these people have like messy speeches and then it comes to the Oscars and they save their good one. So maybe she's doing that. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, with the BAFTA one, I think she felt, you know, obligated to mention something politically, and it just sounded flimsy and whatever.
Yeah.
And, you know, you compare that with Isabelle Huppert and how exuberant and elated and happy her Globe speech was, and, you know, I'd love to see more of that. I really wish she had been BAFTA and SAG nominated. That would have been a lot more fun to have a race with her in it. But
Yeah.
at least she's been everywhere.
Everywhere. I mean, way more than I ever expected.
Yeah, not only is she a person that I never would have expected to even campaign at all, the fact that she, you know, wasn't nominated for two of the biggest awards, but you never had a bit of news without her in it. She was at every festival. She was everywhere. She was presenting at the BAFTAs. I mean, come on. That's some seriously good. That's Sony Classics doing a really good job by her.
Yeah, they've killed it with their campaign all year, basically. So props to them.
Absolutely. Well, what's your percentage then for her?
You like 10% probably.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
Like I said, it's just I'm very pessimistic that most of these Oscar voters in like the tech branches watched Elle, and I know they all watched La La Land, so
yeah.
that's probably it.
That's exactly the right point to make too, and why somebody like Stone is such an overwhelming front runner, because her movie touches every single branch, basically.
Yep.
So you'll see it regardless, even if you're not watching it as, you know, an actor. Yep. But still, a Huppert win would be the best thing ever. So, well, I think we can probably wrap then, since we have talked about actress and Awards Watch, and the listeners at large
We took care of them.
Yes, we took care of them, exactly. So we are just 10 days away from the Oscars. We have those guilds this weekend. Like we mentioned, Motion Picture Sound Editors, Writers Guild, Cinema Audio Society, and Makeup Artists are all this weekend. So watch me on Twitter and making my fingers bleed with trying to keep up with all of that craziness this weekend. And then next week we will have a final predictions podcast. I'm still putting together who's going to be on that and what day it will be. I'm hoping for midweek, so that people can have time to listen to it before Sunday. Any final parting words for today, Bryan?
No, we covered it. I think Viola Davis is going to win supporting actress. We didn't talk about that, but
yeah, it's just
going out on a limb there. So.
I mean, yeah, it's I don't even. There isn't even an alternate in this. It's so there. Yeah, you want to talk about percentages? Good God.
I'll stick with 100. So
I mean, really, that's just crazy. But good for her. I'm going to be really really happy when she wins because her speeches are killer.
Yeah, she's good.
I love her speeches. All right, well, cool. Well, that does it for this 50th podcast. Visit awardswatch.com for these updated predictions. They do update in real time, so even if you've seen something as a number 1 or number 2, you can check back maybe in 15 minutes. It might be moved. Follow us on Twitter at awards_watch, Facebook and Instagram, all of those lovely things. And yeah, I think that's about it. Thank you, Bryan, so much for joining me today.
Yeah, no problem.
Awesome. All right, everybody. Thanks. Goodbye.